Welcome, everyone, to the Meaningful Hearts podcast, where we discuss the everyday questions that make us or break us if we let them. With your hosts, Drew and Daniella. Take our hands and let's walk this journey together.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Meaningful Hearts podcast. Today, it is just me, Daniella, riding solo. On today's episode, I will actually be revisiting a conversation that Drew and I had maybe about a month and a half ago now. We talked about the struggle of holding our loved ones accountable. And I was vulnerable and I shared a situation that I was currently experiencing with a friend of mine and how I was upset because she wasn't communicating with me, that she was upset at me. And I was really struggling on how to do it, whether or not to have the conversation, how I felt about myself as a person and as a friend, even with talking about it on the podcast, talking about it with others. But ultimately, I've decided that it'll be good to revisit and touch base on what's happened since then. And of course, share it with you all and be vulnerable once again. Because I'm a firm believer that we can learn from each other and our experiences. So here we go. The last I left off was I was struggling to, again, figure out what to say and how to have a conversation and how to move forward. Now, a few things happened since then. I went on to have several other conversations with other friends about whether or not I should reach out, whether or not I should reach out, or what I should say, and how my friend might take it. And amongst conversations that I had with friends, it came to light that my friend, the one who was upset with me, shared that she was in fact not mad anymore, but still hadn't spoken to me. And that one of the reasons that she got upset with me was because she knew that if it had been the other way around, I would have gotten really upset with her for forgetting my birthday. And I think hearing this is really what changed me wanting to have a conversation and wanting to move forward in our friendship. And I am going to share why. One, I don't know about you guys, but I think that's pretty petty and hurtful. I think that if you're going to get upset about something, you're allowed to get upset. But you should get about something because it upsets you, not because you know somebody else is going to get upset if you do it to them. That was one of the first things that started to bother me. And then, the more that I thought about it, the more that I realized that this statement in particular hurt me because she was holding me to a version of me that existed a few years ago. Now, I shared in the previous episode that one year my friends did forget my birthday and I was genuinely really hurt by it. But I learned some things along the way. One, I did share with my friends that I was upset with them. Two, I learned that just because people forget your birthday doesn't mean that they don't care about you. I don't know if there's a third one. Well, I think that there is. I think the third one was just being able to move forward ultimately and not hold that against people. And I think that's really what hurt me the most in learning that she had said this, is that she was holding me to a version of me that hadn't grown yet. And I think I almost felt, not almost, I think I felt insulted by that. And maybe that was me being very emotional. But I also think that it's reasonable, even if it is emotional. And so I started to want to change what I was going to say to her. Originally, I wanted to say, hey, listen, once again, I take accountability for forgetting your birthday. But I also want to let you know that your actions have hurt me. You not communicating is hurtful. And I cared a lot about our friendship and you. And I would love to have a conversation with you and figure out a way to move forward. That was what I originally wanted to say. And then after continuing to have conversations, the more time passed by, the less I wanted to actually truthfully keep the friendship. And so I changed what I said to her. And it was a pretty long message, so I am not going to share it here because it's pretty long. But I will share the gist of what I said. So I still took accountability once again for my actions for forgetting her birthday. And then I went on to say, despite forgetting your birthday, I don't think I've been a bad friend. I think I've been a pretty good friend. I'm supportive, I'm understanding, even when I don't agree with your decisions and the things that you've done. But I think ultimately, now that you've turned poor behavior onto me, I'm not okay with it. It's okay for you to be upset with me. It really is. It's okay if maybe you didn't want to talk to me for a while, but it's not okay how you're handling the situation. And I gotta be honest, I want people in my life who are willing to challenge me, willing to help me grow and say, hey, you did this to me. How can we work on it? And it doesn't seem like that's possible in our friendship right now. And truthfully, I've spent a lot of time and energy thinking about different ways to have this conversation. And I stress myself out, and it's exhausting to have to put so much effort into something that the other person is not reciprocating, because clearly it's been enough time, or rather it's been like, you're okay with not talking to me throughout all this time. And that just shows me that maybe what I want out of our friendship is impossible right now. As I'm saying this, it kind of sounds like a breakup, but in some ways it was, because I ultimately ended up saying, I thought about different ways to have this conversation, but the reality is that maybe I'm okay with not having a conversation and just saying my part. And if you respond, okay. And if you don't, that's also okay too, because I'm not coming from a place of malice. And I think that sometimes when we think about holding others accountable, or even when we've decided to cut ties with people in our lives, it's important that you consider where it's coming from, where your decision is coming from. Is it coming from a place of hurt? Yes. But ultimately, it's not coming from a place of malice, of, I want to make you feel badly for what you did. Because it's not like that at all. And it shouldn't be. If you're ever thinking about having conversations about holding people accountable, or even cutting ties, it should not come from a place of malice. And so I said all of this, and at the end I said, I'm not sure how you're really going to take this, but again, I know I'm not coming at you or trying to attack you. I'm coming from a place of care, both for you and for myself. And maybe in the future, I'd be willing to have a conversation But for right now, I think I'm okay. And it was honestly very hard. Very hard to let a friendship go. I mean, it took me months of talking and thinking before finally deciding, you know what? It's just not worth it. And so, when it comes to you, our listeners, if you've ever been, if you currently are, or if you ever find yourself in a position where you are struggling to hold somebody accountable or somebody isn't being good to you. And you know what? In this particular instance, I'm only talking about friendships because relationships are really hard, but so are friendships, especially when we grow as individuals, but our friends maybe don't. And so, if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, I strongly commend you for trying to reflect and for taking the time to understand what you want for yourself. It's pretty tough. It was tough for me, but I did it. I let it go. And in being completely transparent, since then, I feel sad to have let it go, but I also feel relief to have let it go. And when I was sending the message, I remember thinking and realizing there was a part of me that wanted her to respond and say, hey, you know what? I know you say you're okay with this, but I'm not. And I want to salvage our friendship. And then there was this other part of me that didn't want her to answer at all. And she did answer. And I wouldn't necessarily say that her response was a bad response. I think, or I'd like to believe that her response came from a place of being like, okay, I understand, because that's what she said. She said, I understand. I wish you well. And that was it. And I guess her response only further cemented that I made the right decision for myself, no matter how hard it was. A lot of people talk about how difficult it is to let go of unhealthy romantic relationships. Don't know how much people talk about, the struggle of letting go of friendships. But it is important to talk about it. And so, in sharing all of this with you guys, I'm also going to take a little bit of time to reflect on some questions that Drew had actually posed to me, and that I encourage all of you to think about for yourself. So one of them is, how do I feel that now that this person is no longer in my life? Well, I kind of just shared that. I feel sad that such a long-term friendship came to an end, or at least a temporary end. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but I'd like to believe that I'm okay with not having this person in my life come back. I don't know if that made sense, but I think so. So I feel sad, but I also feel relief. Another question is, have I experienced any positive changes since cutting ties with this person? Again, I think I feel relief. It's nice to not have to worry about how somebody is going to respond to me or how somebody is going to feel, I guess, or it's nice to not have to worry about how somebody's going to interpret what I'm trying to say. Do I miss this person? I'm not really sure. I think right now, I don't think so. I don't think there were things to miss, because as things continue to unfold for me, I realized that maybe there wasn't that much value in the friendship anymore. I'm reading the questions here. Give me a minute. How have my relationships with others been affected by this decision? I think this is a good question to ask yourselves after you've cut ties with somebody, because I think that my relationships with others have become even more authentic because people understand that I'm receptive and I'm willing to have uncomfortable conversations, but I'm also not willing to accept anything less than what I feel I now deserve. And then another question, and I think this will be the last one, which I already kind of answered. Do I believe cutting ties with this person was the right decision for my overall happiness and well-being? I think so. Absolutely. And even though I know I might sound a little sad, there is some sadness. But a big part of it is, again, for like the bajillionth time, there's a lot of relief. And if anybody out there can relate to the type of person that I am, I really struggle to let things go, especially when things have hurt me or people have hurt me. I struggle to cut them out of my life. But when I make the decision to do so, it's finalized. Unless somehow I see that things have changed and people have grown, because I know I've grown. And so I leave you all with this moment of vulnerability, this moment of honesty and transparency, and this moment of reflection. I encourage you all to ask yourself these questions if you've let somebody go. If you're still struggling to let somebody go, well, I can understand that too. But I hope that you're able to remember that you deserve respect and you deserve to have people in your life who are willing to listen and be willing to have uncomfortable conversations. And I hope that you all find the strength to cut the people out of your life that maybe are no longer serving you. And with that, I think we'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you so much for listening.